What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday, just like we do every week. It's the co-main event podcast Patreon live chat. I'm Chad. That's Ben. You, as always, are the beloved patrons of the co-main event. We are going to spend the next 60 minutes or so taking your questions, comments, and concerns from over on the Patreon page. Thanks, as ever, to everyone who stopped by to put those comments in the appropriate comment section over on the Patreon page. And hey, welcome to all of the new patrons who took the time to sign up this month during our 50% off holiday sale. There are a bunch of you, which we appreciate.
Yeah.
We appreciate that support. Thanks for getting on board. Thanks for giving the Patreon a chance or coming back to the fold. We appreciate that. If you are a paying member, remember, you can pay to gift somebody else a subscription to the CME right now. And if you want to save them some bucks, tell them about the 50% off deal that they could get in right now for another, I think, 10 days, maybe 11 days we've got for that thing to be up and running. So, spread the word, spread the gospel, go on your Reddit threads and post about the CME so people can get on there and be like, I thought that show was boring.
Yeah.
Like a fucking asshole.
Yeah. Is it boring if we say fuck you? You bored now? We're not bored. You're boring.
You're boring. It says more about you. It's a you problem.
All right. I know you got a heart out here, so we're gonna get right into it. You want to know who's first this week, Chad?
Of course I do.
It's Cody Burnson.
Okay. Welcome back to Cody B.
As is his right, he gets his first question read. He says, once more, your boy is back on top. It's been a minute since my last first, but it is not an unfamiliar place. I don't care if it wasn't the first email. According to what Patreon is showing me, I am first, and that is what matters. It is also which it's showing me, which is what really matters, Cody. Anyways, to my question. Since Dana is so gung-ho about using AI for rankings now, what's the most logical next step? Asking it for predictions on the fights, of course. I went ahead and used ChatGPT to predict the results of UFC 310 this weekend. I suggest Ben uses these foolproof results for $20 you never want to see again on Friday. Also, he's saying foolproof results. I've always thought it was foolproof.
Yeah, it's foolproof.
Okay.
Because that's what you want it to be proof of.
Yeah.
Your own foolishness.
I want to guard against my own foolishness.
Correct.
At all times.
Does he have the ChatGPT prognostications? What does it say?
Main event, it's got Pantoja wins via decision or submission using his grappling and octagon control. Okay.
So it has,
you know how I know ChatGPT is bullshit? Is that it included octagon control.
You think that ChatGPT asked DC who was going to win?
It just did a quick little scan of what the judging criteria claim to be and threw that in there.
It's interesting that it includes method of victory. What else does it say?
It's octagon control is like the sixth finger on the AI generated image here for ChatGPT's predictions. I'm just saying that. It's the dead giveaway. In the co-main, it's got Rachmanov via submission, capitalizing on his well-rounded skill set.
Okay. I'm loving this analysis so far.
And Dominic Reyes versus Anthony Smith. Smith via decision. His experience and resilience could outpace Reyes's recent struggles.
Okay. Interesting. That's one we're going to have to keep an eye on vis-a-vis ChatGPT's guesses. It's picks.
Okay, yeah. We got Luke via TKO. We got Nate Landwehr by decision or late TKO. Here's an interesting one. In the Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling fight, prediction, Evloev by decision using his undefeated streak and grappling advantage.
Well, it's not perfect. They're still working out the kinks of the AI. It's doing its best.
It's a sad mimicry of human consciousness, and I hate it.
Maybe we add ChatGPT to the $20 we never want to see again competition next week or next year, 2025. You and me against and ChatGPT in a three-way dance, brother. Texas tornado style.
It's got Eric Anders by decision capitalizing on Weidman's decline. Ouch.
Jesus.
Ouch.
Jesus Christ.
ChatGPT, the computers are ruthless. Um, it's got Brian Battle over Randy Brown by TKO, Cody Durden via decision over Joshua Van. His experience may outlast Van's aggression. It's got Max Griffin to defeat Michael Chiesa by decision using his striking and pace. Chase Hooper over Clay Guida by submission. His youth and grappling could overwhelm Guida. And finally, Kennedy Nzechukwu via TKO, leveraging his power and athleticism.
Interesting. If Chat GPT joins $20 we never want to see again next year, maybe all of its bets have to be including method of victory. I don't know.
We get ourselves into a real John Henry situation if you and I include ChatGPT as one of the competitors against us in the $20 we never want to see again betting segment, because I'll tell you, I will die trying to beat that ChatGPT, just like old John Henry swinging that hammer, Chad.
Here's one thing that I've thought for a long time is that we should open up $20 we never want to see again to all of the patrons, right? We could have a patrons $20 we never want to see again picks competition all year. The two problems being that, number one, we would need someone to keep track of it all.
Yeah.
And I don't know if our dog Michael Westifer is up for that if we get like hundreds of entries. You know what I'm saying? The other thing is it's illegal for us to sanction gambling events, and Patreon will kick us right off the server if that is the case. So
I'm saying, though, what is Discord's view on the thing?
I mean, don't know. Discord seems to have a little bit of a hands-off philosophy over there, as evidenced by all of the right-wing coup planning that goes on frequently on Discord. We might have to check that out. And, you know, maybe it's just entertainment purposes only. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What if we do it just as a picks competition and not as a...
It's virtual. And then maybe... nudge, nudge, wink, wink. The winner gets a nice prize pack from the CME that we have to take care of offline.
Neil says, what do you guys do when loved ones ask you for hints at holiday and birthday times? My in-laws ask my wife what I'd like for Christmas, and I usually struggle to come up with some random thing that won't break their bank but might still bring me a modicum of joy or utility. I tend to buy those items myself when the need arises. I sent over a list of stuff I curated on Amazon, as well as links to the CME store and Chad's books. Here's to hoping I find a little CME-related cheer in my stockings. LYBE, and screw Tim Kennedy's lying ass.
The holidays are a problem in my family, mostly because of my extended family. My parents have always made a big deal over like Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that. Just like a cornucopia, a disgusting display of gift giving, frankly.
Cornucopia. Wow.
And my wife's family didn't necessarily do that. They were much more modest and frankly, more sensible about how they celebrated the holidays. So now we have gotten into a situation where my kids end up having like 5 Christmases, right? Because both of our parents are divorced and involved in different relationships and stuff like that. So our children have Christmas with us. They have Christmas at my parents' house. They have Christmas at my dad's house. They have Christmas at my wife's mom's house. They have Christmas at my wife's mom's former husband's house. And that's not even, you know, what they're going to get in the mail from Florida from my wife's in-laws. So by the time it's all said and done, Christmas is a fucking slog, man. And my children have received like 1,000 gifts. And so this year, we're going to try to put a little corral on it. We're going to try to rope that in a little bit. And I have a feeling it's going to lead my parents to thinking that we ruined Christmas. So that is going to be an interesting dynamic. But when it comes to me, myself, and I also, if I need something, usually just buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm not waiting around for a gift giving holiday. So sometimes I have a hard time coming up with things that I want. I did tell my wife I want a ridiculously expensive electronic drum set this year. So we'll see if she comes through with that.
When you say ridiculously expensive, what does that mean in the category of electronic drum set?
It's like almost $2,000.
Whoa.
But it
How
seems
much?
like
How
it's
much for like a normal drum set, like a
like
analog
about
drum
it
set?
depends. It depends on how good of it you want it to be, right? But you can spend anything. I mean, you can roll in and get yourself a junky ass drum set for like $100. Do you want to get a good one? Well, then you're up there, thousands if you want to spend it. Uh, but this, I have a friend who has this electronic drum set. He thinks that he called it a quote unquote game changer. And
In terms
so,
of just being able to practice without annoying the hell out of everybody on the block.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And it's got a bunch of different features on it where it's like, you can take lessons on it. You can like play along with songs on it, shit like that. So that was my big gift that I asked for from my wife. And I have a feeling she's going to get it for me because, she loves me.
See, the thing is, it's different. It's like if my parents ask me, like, what do you want for Christmas? And I'm like, I'm a 45-year-old man. You know? Like if I wanted a Nintendo, I would get a Nintendo. I'm not 9 years old anymore, where I'm gonna give you a
Oh man,
list.
I hope you get a Nintendo. That would be so awesome.
Just really, this is the year. Um, and so in that situation, like it seems weird to me to I know people do the Amazon like wish list kind of things. My ex-wife helped our kids like kind of come up with their Amazon wish lists, which are pretty predictable in the sense that like my oldest daughter was like, I want clothes, skincare items, and basically take me to Sephora and set me free. And my youngest daughter will be like, I want one hyper specific thing that I have fixated on.
Yeah.
And it feels weird to me to like come up with a list of things that I want, especially because the stuff that I need or want, I'm buying it based on when that need or want comes up. And beyond that, I feel like I would just be coming up with stuff just to
Yeah.
have stuff on the list. And it just feels like I can't, in good conscience, sit there and be like, buy me these things, fellow adults.
Yeah.
Like that just feels weird to me. Plus, it depends on the relationship of the person. If it's somebody like, your parents or an in-laws or something like that, get me anything. I don't fucking care. Like I understand you want to show
Actually,
that you
like
care.
get me nothing would be better because the shit that they give me, it's just taking up space at my
Yeah.
house 9 times out of 10, to be honest.
My parents will get me like a gift card to like Amazon or something, or a gift card to like the local hockey shop. And I'm just like, yeah, sure. Because that's the kind of thing where it's like, do I need a new chest shoulder pads for hockey? Yeah, the shoulder parts ripped off of mine a while ago. There's holes in them, but like I could get by. I'm not gonna go buy one, but if you gave me a gift card, I might go get one. That kind of shit. Also, though, it's like for more like personal relationships that I have like with people where I consider them close friends or like romantic interests, things like that. To me, the whole thing of gift giving is you sort of show how well you know me or the way in which you care about
Wow.
me
Wow.
by you decide. You get something
Wow.
that you think that I would like. Like I that's the point. I feel
Hmm.
like it's
Okay.
not to like just go and get me something where I just like went to an electronics section or something and was like, that I would like that. Give that to me, please. Like that feels so impersonal. But if you were like, hey, here's a book you didn't even know existed, but I've read before and think you would enjoy. Whether I enjoy it or not is not even the point. I like that you thought about it, that you decided like, what do I know about this person? What would he enjoy? Here's something. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't even matter that much if you're right. Just that like you put that level of thought into it, like that's what the point of the gift is, I think.
I'm glad you threw that caveat there at the end that it doesn't even matter if you like it because
No.
you, up till that point, made gift giving holidays sound like a test.
Well, see, when I give somebody a gift, if they tell me buy me this and I'm just like, okay, I guess I gotta do that now, huh? Like it's not, I don't get to exercise any agency there. Whereas if I'm thinking about the person and I'm just like, what do I know that they need but wouldn't buy for themselves? What do I think that they would really like even if they don't know it? And sometimes you go swing and miss there, but I think that that's the thought that counts aspect. Like that is the point of like, hey, I got you a gift and you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's no fun if I'm just like, hey, I got you the thing that you pointed to on the shelf at the store when we were both there. The fuck is that?
Kind of like if you had a buddy who went on a trip and then brought you a commemorative Stanley Cup playoffs Seattle Kraken hockey puck.
Kind of like that. Kind of like that. Or if you had a buddy who, lo these many years ago, saw a Boss Rutan liver shirt t-shirt hanging up in Boss Rutan's fucking LA gym and sent you one.
Yeah, I still have that, I think, somewhere.
JT says, first off, can you help a brother out here? I keep hearing great things about Uncrowned and want to support the work of Ben and his team there, but when I Google Uncrowned MMA and other variations on a theme, all I can find are news releases. Where do I find that sweet, sweet content? Also, Ben mentioned his mailbag last week. Where can I check that out and sub? Next, I must admit that I am one of those degenerates who listen to audiobooks and podcasts at almost 3x speed with gap skipping enabled. But, this is in all caps, you should know that I keep you homies at a mere 1.8x speed because, while I've got stuff to do, I do like to savor my time with the CME community. It is weird, though, anytime I see clips of you speaking normally, some might say ponderously. I mean, I wouldn't, but some might. LYBE. That is
Who's
wild
this from?
Me. This is from JT.
JT, we love you. Thanks for supporting the show. It sounds like you are a psychopath.
But dude, thanks for keeping us at a slightly lower speed than everybody else. What kind of Alvin and the Chipmunks ass things are you listening to at that 3x speed though? Doesn't everything sound ridiculous at that point?
The next time I settle down to listen to my audiobook, I'm going to put it at 3x speed just to see. Maybe I'll like it. Maybe I'll be like, this is great. Let's go. LFG.
Maybe that's when your life unravels. As for the first part, okay, so if you are just, instead of Googling to answer every question, if you just go into the URL bar or whatever, if you just type in uncrowned.com, it will redirect you to the Yahoo Sports part where we are. Or you just go to Yahoo Sports. Like if you were to Google Yahoo Sports MMA, that will take you there. If you were to just Google Yahoo Sports and then from the main sports page, you can look for the tab that'll go up there. Like they have, if you're on the main Yahoo Sports page, I'm on it right now, you will see a little gold crown next to the word combat. That's where all the uncrowned combat sports stuff lives. It's all there, and it's broken down into MMA, boxing, wrestling, or you can just click the word combat and it'll take you to the main page. And so that's where all our stuff is. As for the mailbag, comes out every Wednesday. I wrote it this morning, should be coming out later today. But yeah, I feel like we're at a weird time of the internet just in general, because it feels like social media took away the practice of having a bunch of sites bookmarked that you just went to every day just to see what was new on those sites. At least, I mean, maybe some people still do that. I do it far less than I did in like the 2006 internet. I had folders, I had bookmarks where I was just like, these are the websites I check every day to read, to see what's up there. And I'll just go and see what you got. I don't have to be redirected there from something else. And social media really replaced that. So now it was like you'd use some of these social media sites to direct people specifically to the link that you posted. And then those social media sites were like, no, we don't like that. So like we'll bury that when you try to do it. And so it just makes it so that like we are at the old world is dying and the new one struggles to be born is what I'm saying here.
Yeah. Here's what's weird. If I go over to the site, the top story in the right-hand list of stories is Can Kai Asakura End 31 Years of Japanese UFC Heartbreak by Ben Folks.
I wrote that.
If I click MMA and then it takes me to the MMA page, that story is not on there. Oh, wait, it is.
Click MMA, it's the top story.
No, it's not for me. Ian Machado Gary gets scorched earth on Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman is the top story. And then the hero is just watch live the Ariel Helwani show featuring Gervonta Davis. I have to scroll down a good ways to find Kai Asakura, published 18 hours ago. Let's see here. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories down.
Okay, well, I just tried it again, and so maybe it does a different thing.
I mean, they booted you for Ariel, dog. That's what happened.
Look, obviously Ariel's show is going to be the top thing, and it's going to create a whole bunch of content that we write off of that. Frankly, it's going to create a whole bunch of content that a lot of other people write off of that. But it does seem to be doing a thing where if you go back and forth, you might get a different thing depending on when you go.
I think
So,
Chuck Mindenhall is throttling your ass.
Chuck doesn't. First of all, Chuck would never.
You don't think Chuck's turning the levers back behind
No.
the uncrowned to make sure
Well,
Ben Folks gets limited in his reach?
Even if Chuck had his hand on the levers, he wouldn't do it. Ryan Busatil writes,
Hey!
How will MMA remember Chris Weidman when he decides to retire? He started his career undefeated, dethroned the GOAT at that time via KO, won the rematch, and then beat 2 former UFC champs, albeit aged. But he's gone 3-7 since then and had that horrific leg break. Is Chris Weidman a UFC Hall of Famer? Now, that's an interesting question. I've put forth the theory many times before that fighters focus a lot on how their career ends. And they get to that stage where they think, I can't go out like this. I can't go out on these losses. I don't want to end like that. And so they keep fighting, in part because of that, but also in part because money and identity and, it's their career. They don't know what comes next. But also, once they do retire and once we do reflect on their career, I think we tend to remember the highlights more than just whatever we saw last, unless whatever we saw last was fucking awful. Like Chuck Liddell, we remember the highlights, but we also remember the unique end to his career, where Dana White was like, I will give you a check to not fight, at least for a while. And for the most part, I think that our impression of you and our memory of you, once you're done, gets a lot more generous and is a lot more forgiving than it is when you're in that late stage and everybody's looking at you like, bro, it might be time.
I'll remember Chris Weidman as the guy who beat Anderson Silva. I think that's going to be the first thing that comes to mind for me when someone mentions Chris Weidman, but then the decline also has to be part of it. I think that'll be the second thing that I think of because he showed so much promise and potential on his way up to beating Anderson Silva. Like before he was even in the UFC, Matt Serra and Ray Longo were talking about how this guy's going to be a UFC champion. And then in his early performances, he did live up to that potential. And then he went on to beat Anderson Silva and become the champion. And that was about it, man, and I guess this is an interesting question from Ryan because it does kind of beg the question, is Chris Weidman a one-hit wonder? Is he like Vanilla Ice out here? Is Chris Weidman the Divinals, right? And I don't know the answer to that question.
Wait, who's the Divinals?
When I think about you, I touch myself.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'm sure
I
you
don't
saw
want
my post on
anybody
Instagram
else.
where the big homie Dan Brooks was forced to sing this during karaoke roulette on Thanksgiving and just crushed it.
Absolutely. Of course he is. That,
just crushed it.
Dan, you know what? Where Dan Brooks excels? Performance.
Yeah.
Get that when the red light comes on, brother.
He chose to go with a certain interpretation of the I Touch Myself song where he was almost threatening you. Where he was like, instead of it being like an homage to somebody, it was more like, I touch myself and there's nothing you can do about it to stop me.
Yeah.
Like when I think about you, I touch myself and I hope it freaks you out, but I'm going to keep doing it. And it was delightful. But I do wonder sometimes where the churn rate of MMA fandom comes in, because how many people are still left in the fan base who remember Chris Weidman beating Anderson Silva, who were there for it? Like, did they kind of just hear about it later on? And the same way we talk about with some other fighters, like when they brought, Stipe out and were trying to really build him up as a heavyweight GOAT. And I was like, how many people were MMA fans when Stipe last won a fight or when Stipe was last heavyweight champion? And I wonder how that plays out, but I don't know. I think I will remember the good times for Chris Weidman.
Yeah, me too. Is he a UFC Hall of Famer? There's no way
Yes.
to know because the UFC will do whatever. They'll just put him in there, right? Is he an objective, independent MMA Hall of Famer? Probably not.
Wow. Wow. Thomas G says, "What up, gents? I've been going through some stuff and haven't been able to tap in as consistently. I don't know if your algorithms are feeding you the same content, but I've been seeing so many left leaning men kicking ass on social media lately. After the election, I saw so many of us using their therapy words to excuse themselves from doing anything actually effective. I was very disappointed. In the last week or so, however, I've seen a lot of my follows using my favorite tactic: open mockery and threats of violence. I said a long time ago, those Chuckles McForeskin alpha male types just recycle the same jokes. There's no way they know more words than us, and they never bothered to develop a personality, so let's make them feel bad about the unrepentant shittery. Since I started listening to the CME, I've always appreciated seeing men that share the same values as me, that I also believe could hold their own in a fist fight. Is that toxic? Somewhat, but some things are just in me. It's not weak to respect women, care about communities you don't belong to, or to value the mental health of yourself or the people you interact with. Keep showing up in the world doing good and not just think pieces. That time I told y'all about thinking I saw Boys to Men die. Bless. Thomas. I think about that probably once a month at least.
Yeah, that's one of the all-time greats. You know what? I feel bad that I called JT a psychopath. I was just joking, JT. I was just joking. Sorry about that. You sound wonderful, frankly.
You know, along these lines, I've found, like, for one thing, it seems like I had to reevaluate, especially like how much I wanted to even be on social media, just in terms of like what what of this do I want to put into my brain, and is it actually as useful as we can maybe tell ourselves it is sometimes? Because people are
Yeah.
just like, you know what? I cannot stay silent on this issue. I must post this tweet. There, did it. Mission accomplished. And it's like you didn't really do anything. But like at the same time, you don't want your silence necessarily to be taken for complicity. But I also feel like a lot of people could stand to benefit from a realignment of how they think about this stuff. Because you see sometimes on there people where they're espousing opinions or trying to have conversations, and I'm like, this is something that you should talk about with people in your life. Like this is something like that would actually have an impact more than you just blasting out one of millions of short messages about it on social media to a bunch of strangers. Like this maybe is where a conversation with friends or even acquaintances could replace this in a more meaningful way.
Yeah.
And I especially noticed at times where I was just like, hey, notice how you feel like more negative and pessimistic about the future the more time you spend on social media. Maybe that's bad for you."
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think about giving it up all the time, right? Especially over on Twitter, where it's just like, God damn, it's just what am I even doing over here? It's like I'm smoking a pack a day, essentially, right? Just scrolling through my Twitter. I know I shouldn't be doing it, but I still am. And I I like the stuff that has been happening to me over on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
But Blue Sky, the functionality I feel like is a little bit weird, but I like it. I like it over there. And then you know what? The worst thing about Twitter is it. The best tweets are the ones that I don't send. Like if you guys could see the Twitter that's just in my brain, oh, I'm fucking hilarious on there. But the worst thing that can happen is when I succumb to posting a tweet. Like the worst thing that can happen is that it gets a lot of attention,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
post a tweet that like quote unquote, even in a small way goes viral. And it's just like, I feel like it's the worst feeling because then, you know, the chuds find it eventually, the fucking turds. And then you get a bunch of turds in your mentions. And I recently like made my shit locked or whatever so that only people who follow me or whatever can reply to my tweets. But then I was like, well, now I got to post this thing about the CME and like I got to go back to public. I don't know. It's a whole fucking hornet's nest.
Jeff Winger says, "Good day, gentlemen. Can we please take a moment to consider the beautiful like led by one of our very own, the one and only Tracy? Tracy fucking Brand. Without her, a lot of us would still be lost. Without her, I wouldn't have my West Coast brothers Dave Manley and Joe Hafner to lean on when MMA toxicity has me down. Without her, we wouldn't know how truly sexy the Wonder Man thinks TRT Tom is. This Saturday is the real Tracy's birthday. Look, there could be more than one Tracy. If we could all raise a frosty one to her, I think this world would heal just a little bit. Thanks for making the CME meetup happen. Happy birthday, Tracy. Hey, happy birthday to
Yay! Happy
Tracy.
birthday, Tracy. Tracy and Justin, who essentially set up the CME meetups, are the all-time MVPs
Yeah.
of this show. Probably more so than you and I,
Yes.
because that never would have happened without them. We would still be sitting here talking about the potential of a CME meetup without Tracy and Justin. So our everlasting thanks to them. Happy birthday to Tracy. I think all the time about when we're going to do another one.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Maybe it's time for us to stop talking shit and fucking get off the pot. You know what I'm saying, brother?
All right. I'm not sure you're using that phrase correctly, but okay. Benny P says, "Hey gents, can you help me understand how UFC contracts work? As I understand it, fighters sign a multi-fight deal, which specifies how much they'll be paid per fight. However, we also talk about fighters like John Jones looking for more money to take riskier fights. Can you clarify how that works? Does he renegotiate his contract before each fight? Create a separate per fight agreement in addition to the multi-fight deal he's already under? Please indulge me, as this is the first time that the intricacies of contract law have ever seemed compelling. LYBE." Okay, yeah, this is a good question. Basically, this is the heart of the conflict between John Jones and the UFC, and sometimes between other fighters. Is here he's sitting there as a UFC champ. He has a long-term contract and a fairly new one that he recently agreed to after moving up to heavyweight. And he is saying, "Hey, look, I'm ready to be done. I could just retire, remain under contract, and not take any more of those fights." The standard UFC contract, I don't know if it's changed at all in recent years and how some of the legal challenges, they changed some shit and then went and changed some shit back after Francis Ngannou took advantage of it, and took advantage in a positive way. I'm not saying took advantage unfairly, but the old way it used to work was they agree in the contract, we gotta give you this many fights within this specified period of time. Like we gotta offer you a
Offer you
fight.
to
Yeah.
offer you.
We gotta offer you a fight every 6 months at least. Now, if we offer you a fight and you turn it down, we can extend your contract for 6 months. That was kind of the standard UFC deal. Now, people might have negotiated different deals in there, but that was how it worked. And sometimes they were known to take advantage of that by offering you a fight we know you don't want or can't take, either because you don't want to fight that guy, or you don't want to fight on that short of notice, or we know that you're injured or you're dealing with something, you're going to say no, and then we can extend your contract. So that can and has been weaponized against people. They also do the thing though where, say you got 2 or 3 fights left on your current deal, and we are thinking about maybe giving you a really good fight for you, a really career booster, one that if you win it, maybe you fight for a title next, something good is going to happen for you with this fight. We will only give it to you if you agree to a new contract for 7 or 8 fights, or something really long term, so that we don't have to turn around and negotiate with you once you have more power. Once you know the fans like you more, once you have a better negotiating position to operate from, we don't want to negotiate with you then. We want to negotiate with you now, because we won't give you that fight unless you say yes to being locked down under these terms that happen before the good thing happens to you. So that will happen often. John Jones is a rare position where he can say, "Hey, look, yeah, you got me under contract. I know that I can't charge a different amount for a different fight. Technically, I could just keep turning the Tom Aspinall fight down every 6 months. You keep extending my contract. I don't fight. I don't get paid." But he at least believes that he has made enough money and done enough in his career that if it's not a bluff, if he's willing to actually stick to his guns and say, "I'll just stay home. I don't need to ever fight again," then they never get that fight made. And if he's saying to them like, "Hey, I know we just agreed to this new deal, but if you want me to do this fight, you need to offer me something else." Now, that that could be a situation where they just say like, "All right, let's come up with a fight agreement where we'll pay you this for this fight, and then we will not pay you that for other fights." But that's the thing that I think the UFC is trying to avoid. I don't think it's so much about we don't want to pay John Jones even a little more money to fight Tom Aspinall. I think that they are worried about that precedent. That if you let somebody like John Jones tell you, hey, the price for title defenses is this, but the price for this particular fight that'll do big business for you is this times two, then other people are going to start to do that. They're going to try at least. And I don't think they want to get into that. I think that they would much rather be like, hey, the contract is the contract, take it or leave it. And I think they know most fighters will end up taking it. And I think that's probably what we'll get into with the John Jones thing, is that they're just going to kind of stare at each other across the table and see who cracks first.
Yeah.
So that's my clarity on how that works. Backpack Boom Bap Tom says, yo, my dad is going to be 70 on Thursday, which makes me feel things like my parents are getting older and I live in a different part of the country. I'm very happy I moved out of London and could never move back, but I still feel guilty not being around for them. Not that they're in that position, but it's still a worry. I don't know how to wrap up that thought other than it's made me think about life. LYBE Tom. And we've talked about this a little bit on Doing the Damn Thing, the aging parents thing.
Yeah. Man, I don't know what's going to happen in the future because all of the parents around in my family right now are starting to get older. And some of them are still, very much with it and healthy and getting around and living full lives and everything like that. But there are, you can kind of see it coming in the tunnel. And I don't know what's going to happen when we get there. And that is, that's like an existential worry that I don't think about every day, but I probably should. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's only moving in one direction, time.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can just tell yourself you won't get there. You kind of will. And so, yeah, I have a lot of those same feelings where you just like, you kind of like, I don't know what to do about this, but also, hey, we all knew this is the way things go. This is the way things move,
Yeah.
Matthew Collis says, I just wanted to point out that not only is Bryce Mitchell versus Chrome Gracie a BJJ versus BJJ matchup, it's also a flat earther versus flat earther matchup. Yes, Chrome Gracie has also gone on record many times claiming he doesn't buy into these fly-by-night theories that the earth is a spinning globe. Whose flat earth theory will reign supreme? Maybe Bryce and Crone pal around after the fight and start their own podcast. Fingers crossed it doesn't exist already. Ryan Robinson, senior CME Watch Party host, says, instead of a migrant fight league, I want to see a flat earth fight league, maybe with anti-vaxxers and climate change deniers too. That would be the worst fight league, but with more crazy shit. Ryan, I got news for you. We already have a climate change deniers fight league, and it's called the UFC, brother.
Yeah. And anti-vaxxers as well. So you're telling me this is for the championship of the flat earth?
This is for the flat earth world championship. I don't understand what the flat earth thing is. One that I have a hard time believing that people actually believe. I think they're just trying to be contrarian assholes. Because what do you think it looks like out? Like what? How do you think that possibly works?
If I was a billionaire, I would get all the flat earth people and I was like, all right, we're going around the world. I'm taking every one of you around the world. We're leaving from this place and we're going to go in a more or less straight line until we get back here. Then we'll talk. Then we'll see what's up.
Yeah, I don't understand what they picture in their minds when they're trying to imagine the Earth and its place in the solar system.
If the Earth was flat, wouldn't more people be falling off it frequently? Right? How do they think trade routes work? Right? Like, how do we get the goods and services from other parts of the world that come here? Wouldn't we be hearing more of like a giant tanker ship full of cars accidentally sailed off the edge of the earth and is now, I don't know, flying through space or whatever they think happens when you do that?
Yeah, it just doesn't. That's why I think that like they're playing us by getting us to even engage in the discourse when there's no reason to. There's also, not a single reason to.
What's under it? Is it like a big pizza pie? Turtles. Is there like another side of the world?
Turtles all the way
Is
down.
Anything over there? Does anybody live on that other side?
That's the dark place. That's where the trolls live. Feder Gothard says, Dearest Ben, as a fan since the old MMA fighting days, I just want to say again how cool it has been to get to read great written MMA journalism again at Uncrowned. Be it from you, Chuck, Pizzi, or Shaheen, can you talk about how the first couple of months for you have been with the new/old team? Not to downplay your talent or accolades, but this opportunity fell into your lap a little bit. Do you pinch yourself sometimes wondering how, in this day and age, you ended up at a place with actual ambition for their MMA coverage? I do think it's great and rare, especially for the current MMA landscape. Um, as a warrior by nature, it it sometimes feels like, are we swimming against the stream that is taking everything to like the shit MMA coverage? Like if we're the only ones doing other stuff, we gotta hope that people actually care about the other stuff, and that at some point the company overlords aren't like, we tried that, didn't work. We'll just do the same clickbait shit and reading the internet shit that other people do, and we'll have AI do it. Like I hope that it doesn't become that. I hope that there are enough people who actually like the stuff and care about the shit that we're putting out that we can keep doing it. But it's honestly, I think we all have kind of felt it that it's nice to be working around people who are good at this and care about this. Like that is something that maybe I didn't fully appreciate earlier in my MMA journalism career, is what a difference it makes to be around other people who are like-minded and care about like putting out good stuff rather than just putting out any stuff. And like that makes a big difference in what kind of work environment it is. And I think I took it for granted earlier on, especially because you remember how it was back in the early MMA media days where it was like there was no reason to be in this except that you actually gave a shit about it. And every once in a while you'd end up working somewhere where it was just like, like it was like this at Sports Illustrated where the people who were assigned as the MMA editors felt like that was the shit detail. That was them, their version of being McNulty on the boat, or Freeman in property crime, in the back room somewhere. They were like, I can't believe I got stuck with this backwater ass position.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference in terms of like how it feels to work with those people. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. Let's see here. David E. Lauderay says, what do you guys think about old smooth Joey Five Fingers giving his son that get out of jail free card? Dangerous precedent? Corrupt? Totally okay because it's our guy? Seems like a lot of years to have to pardon. How many years will Connor serve when it's all said and done?
Wow, quick change of pace there.
Yeah.
I maybe this is going to show my bias, but I honestly don't give a shit that Joe Biden pardoned Hunter Biden. And honestly, the only thing that I think about it is that I wish Democrats would do more of that stuff, because, and not just that, they should do more. I mean, I don't want them to do more of that exact stuff, but they should do more breaking the rules, man, because Republicans, well, the analogy that I've always heard is that Republicans and Democrats were playing a board game, and Democrats are still sitting at the table trying to figure out how to win the board game long after Republicans got up and set the house on fire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I wish there was more acknowledgement that like the other party is burning the house down and we are still here in noble fashion, like trying to play by the rules, right? And losing, trying to play by the rules and losing, man. Do the fucking crazy shit that they're doing on our side. Do the same shit.
Okay, to the extent that I agree with that, I want it to be do the crazy shit that will actually help push your agenda forward and will stop them from just running over you.
Right.
Pardoning your son doesn't do any of that.
Sure. That's the better point to make.
But then again, I also feel like I don't give a shit. I have never once given a shit about Hunter Biden. Because you're telling me like, oh, the rich United States president has a fuck up son. Man, if every rich person in America, it seems, has a fuck up kid somewhere. Like that part, especially because the various crimes he has been accused of, for the most part, don't have anything to do with the operation of the U.S. government.
Sure. That's the difference, right? Is that Trump's children were in his cabinet. If Hunter Biden was in Joe Biden's cabinet, it would be an entirely different story.
Yeah, it's like he's doing, rich fuck up playboy degenerate shit, like fucking smoking crack with strippers and buying guns and like shit like that, which I'm not saying that's a great way to live, but I also it does like those are not the crimes that I care about at a big picture level. I care about the stuff where it's like, all right, you're engaging in government corruption right before our very eyes. And like when you're doing that, like those pardoning those kinds of people, I think it does set a dangerous precedent. But also, Trump pardoned like 150 fucking people on his way out the door. So
And then just made Jared's dad, who he
who he
pardoned
pardoned?
earlier, the ambassador to France.
Yeah. And so it's like I don't really care about that kind of shit, but I also think that there is a danger to being like, hey, the rules don't exist anymore, so fine. You guys are breaking the rules this way, we'll break the rules this way. And then it it just ends up being a thing where it's like, okay, so all you've done is shown the American people at large that the rules don't apply to you. Like you guys live in a different class of people, a different class of citizens, that the rules do not apply to you at all, which kind of seems like the world that they want. I think that there's a danger if we, the other normal people, allow them to do that because they just keep pushing it farther and farther. It's kind of like the same thing we see with the Supreme Court, where they're like, we've thought about it and decided that the rules we should be held to are none. And you know what? Don't worry, we really considered it carefully. And you're like, but that's not how any of the rest of us work. So I do think that there's a danger in that. I also don't give a shit about the president's fuck up son,
Yeah.
just in general.
Sorry, I phrased it incorrectly. I wish that they were eliminating the electoral college and expanding the
Yeah.
court and, doing shit like that instead of pardoning Hunter Biden.
Yeah. Bennett DeWolf says, what do you guys think about the difference in technique and skill level between the lighter and heavier weight classes? At 135 to 155, pretty much every champion is an all-time great with a few exceptions. Meanwhile, at 185 and 205, you have guys like Dreykus and Yuri winning titles while looking like Looney Tunes characters out there. For God's sake, freaking Tai Tuivasa was in a damn title eliminator 2 years ago. I'm getting a little too exercised. Anyways, LYBE sending sleep-deprived good vibes from the East Coast. Yeah, I mean, this has kind of always been the case in MMA, right? It's just because the existence of weight classes, frankly, in fight sports, is the only place to give reliable professional sports career opportunities to smaller human beings.
Yeah.
For just like the other sports do not have a place for you. And at some point, no matter how good an athlete you are, you kind of get filtered out. Even though, I remember playing high school football and there would be like some 5'6", 160-pound running back who was awesome and who was quick as shit and would just run people ragged. I remember guys like that, like, growing up in the Inland Valley in California, where you'd see like, this guy for Rancho Cucamonga High is averaging 180 yards rushing per game. And he couldn't get big colleges to take a shot on him because they just looked at the stats and were like, no, too small. And I don't know, maybe he is, maybe he's not. Maybe there are some 5'6" ass dudes who could play running back in the NFL if they got a shot. But that's the thing about those kind of sports. You need somebody to say yes and put you on the team to even give you a shot. In fight sports, you start out, there's some promoter who will give you a shot just because they need bodies on a fight card, and you keep winning, then people will pick you up. And so you end up with like the bigger guys, the bigger athletes have other options, and so the talent pool is just shallower across the board. However, I will say it's not like it's like that all the time. 185 produced Anderson Silva, one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen, and 205 is being held down right now by Alex Pereira, who's going to go down as one of the greatest. So I understand that there are periods where those weight classes seem to go through dips and declines more often,
Yeah.
but it's not like they never have anybody.
Right. And John Jones, right, is one of
Right.
the most skilled guys that we've ever seen in the sport. And he is the longtime 205-pound champion. And now, at least in theory, is the heavyweight champion. And so, there are skilled people there, though. But do you think like the overall nature of the competition at the heavier weight classes incentivizes or gives more weight, no pun intended, to different styles, right? Like, because at 135, it's technical background is maybe the most important thing because you're by and large not going to be fighting guys who just go out there and knock you out with one punch, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like with heavyweight, I don't know if I believe what I'm even saying right now, but like it seems like it is less beneficial at heavyweight to be like an amazing tactical fighter because maybe Francis Ngannou just runs at you and throws huge hillbilly haymakers in a gamble that he is going to be able to knock you out before you knock him. No, you knock him out. And if he has the one skill of like takedown defense or whatever, even passable to be able to stop your extremely technical takedowns, he's probably still going to win, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff at the wall when I say that, but it seems I believe it in spirit. Let's say that.
We're about 50 minutes in. You know what time it is.
It's Tracy time.
Tracy Dickinson writes, I came across one of those favorite things lists for Nate Landwehr, and I've made some realizations, and I also have some questions. His favorite show is Lincoln Lawyer, which is something that I'm currently watching on Netflix. This could only mean that the train and I are meant to be best friends. He said his favorite drink is Sprite with Blue Moon and a shot of tequila. Okay, wait a minute. That's 3 drinks, first of all. His favorite drink is 3 different drinks. Is he mixing them all together?
I assume so. Yeah. What's Blue Moon?
No.
Oh, is Blue? Are we
Blue
talking
Moon's a
about?
beer.
We're talking about the beer, Blue
The
Moon.
citrusy beer.
That's gross. It is well, I mean, don't knock it till you try it, I guess, but it sounds gross.
The way she's phrasing it, Sprite with Blue Moon, makes me think he's mixing those 2 things together, which at that point, I would just say maybe admit you don't like beer because Blue Moon already barely tastes like beer, and then you're going to add a Sprite?
Are we just missing some commas here? Is that
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that what we need?
Sprite with Blue Moon and a shot of tequila because that's like next to it. I respect it, I guess, because it's just so wild. And especially if somebody's like, "What's your favorite drink?" and you name 3 things, you're, you're like, "Fuck the rules of your list." She goes on to write, "I've never tried this and have serious doubts, but maybe I can try it when we're watching Lincoln Lawyer together. I've realized that he has incredible self-confidence. He listed himself as his favorite fighter and one of his own KOs as his favorite KO, and his favorite quote is, 'I'll be damned if I ain't handsome, baby.' That's a Nate Landwehr quote."
Yeah.
By the way, one of his favorite quote. I don't know if he misunderstood the question or if he definitely understood the question, but it continues. "I'll have to see if he can give me some helpful hints about having self-confidence while we're watching Lincoln Lawyer, of course. And what surprised me the most is that his favorite hobby is gardening. Since he's pretty intense during his fights, do you suppose this is a way for him to have zen-like moments to give himself some balance? Or does he do some sort of extreme gardening to keep up the intensity in all aspects of his life? What mental image do you have when you picture Nate gardening, and what is he growing? And I'm now wondering if gardening is a euphemism for growing weed."
Wow. It is interesting to try to imagine Nate Landwehr gardening. It's interesting to try to imagine Nate Landwehr having a conversation about gardening.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. Actually, now I can kind of picture him down in the gardening section of Home Depot, really getting into an intense conversation with like a 65-year-old woman about what kind of fertilizer to use, which perennials are going to do best in this environment. Like I can actually imagine him getting super into that.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that could be right.
And I don't know, it's not that hard to imagine somebody who seems really intense in a lot of areas of his life having like one hobby.
Yeah.
That the point of which is to mellow out and just focus on one thing.
Which could also just be smoking grass.
I mean, if you told me that Nate the Train, he grows some garlic, he grows some rosemary, he also grows some weed, and he's known to incorporate all 3 into a nice dinner on a Sunday evening, I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that. All right, some lightning round before we get out of here. Kat Pope asked, "What was your top Spotify rap song?" Mine was Mr. Brownstone by Guns N' Roses because my band was learning it and I practiced relentlessly. Also, we learned it because it fucking rips. Mr. Browse. Man, that's one. You see a lot of people posting their Spotify wrapped things. First of all, I don't use Spotify, so
Yeah.
I don't have it. But uh, if you see everybody posting the shit and they're like chaperone, like all the same shit over and over again, and then you roll in there and it says fucking Mr. Brownstone from the Appetite for Destruction album that came out in like 1987. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. I also do not use Spotify, so I couldn't tell you.
Michael Heelan says, note from my Japanese in-laws, while they hadn't heard of Ryzen, the most likely pronunciation is La Aijin. The L is soft, kind of the soft L/R typified in the Japanese language, and the J is also soft, more of a J/Z. So in summary, Raizen is much closer than Raisin, but just with softer consonants. Also, it's very hard to send a phonetic pronunciation by text for a podcast. Thanks for sticking with me. Yeah, that one was tough on me. I don't know if I learned anything about how to say it. Are you still there? You froze. You're frozen. It's creepy.
Hello?
There you are.
Lost my whole shit there. Sorry. My whole computer froze.
Oh yeah, you froze over here. It was
Shut down. Like the whole thing shut down.
wow.
Now we're back. Although I had to invite myself into the recording session as a guest.
That's weird.
Here we are.
All right, just a couple more before we get out of here. One, Danny the Boy the Third says, "Hi gents, why don't we ever see This is a quote. Why don't we ever see palm strikes in MMA or bare knuckle fighting? Boss Rutan, because people are stupid." I agree. These strikes not only provide more reach, but also fewer chances to injure your hands. Plus, the bone in your palms is hard as fuck, and the strike is perfectly legal as long as it's not to the back of the head. So why don't we see more of these beauties being thrown? Cheers. I have a theory. Want to hear it?
Yeah, what is it?
Because you look stupid. You look like you think you're like fucking Van Damme in Lionheart or something. You're throwing palm strikes. You look like a strip mall karate dipshit. And I think that even if it is effective, people don't want to try it because they don't want somebody to be like, "What the fuck are you doing, bro?"
So it's just peer pressure?
Yeah. They don't want to look stupid.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It just seems like bullshido, right? In a way. Also, when my computer shut down, I lost my local recording. So we're just going to have to go with the StreamYard audio today, and hopefully it's good. We'll see.
Okay. Ryan Robinson, senior CME Watch Party host, hit us with a quote. "You see things, you say why, but I dream things that never were, and I say, why not?" That's attributed to George Bernard Shaw, back to Methuselah. My friends, I am at E-14, 2 weeks until the election day in Lethbridge West by-election here in southern Alberta. I'm the campaign manager for the NDP, a democratic socialist party with deep ties to organized labor and progressive values and policies. This province is sometimes called Texas North for our petro fetish and our religious extremists and the space we give to far-right insanity. No question here, just a flag for folks looking for hope that I intend on bucking the right-wing trends and crushing the United Conservative Party opponent and notching a win for progressive folks. If you're a legal resident of Alberta, I would love if you could check out the link in my reply to this comment and pitch in $20 to my team. And if you're not, check out the local Lethbridge News on December 18th, and hopefully I'll make a losing former police chief cry. All the love to all the people and pets, and extra love to the amazing group of New Democrats across Canada standing up for our shared values. I never knew Alberta was Texas North. Did you know that?
I guess so. Not really, although I guess kind of. So go Ryan Robinson. Let's get it.
Matthew Thomas says, "Ben, as someone who's almost divorced, I'm curious about your experience entering the world of dating apps and dating in general post-marriage. Any tips?"
I feel like people are just teeing you up now, for these things just to hear what you're going to say. It's just like you're kind of getting trolled, I feel like.
I can't help it if I have correct opinions on this. Um, I would say, especially as you first get out of a marriage, maybe don't jump into anything too serious too soon. Give yourself time to figure it out. So especially if you've been married a while and you've been married since before dating apps were the main way that people got together, give yourself some time to figure that part out because it works a lot differently. And it but it can work a lot better in some ways. Plus, I'd also say you end up as a man at that point. The bar for men in most places on like the dating apps is pretty low.
Yeah.
So
some real turds on there.
yeah. So if you can look
I've
okay
heard.
in a picture, if you can communicate pretty well in written messages, then you might be more of a prize pick than you thought you were before. So give yourself some time to figure that stuff out. But also, like it's a good opportunity to kind of evaluate and be like, what's important to me in like a potential partner or somebody I'm going to be dating, or just be honest with yourself for one thing about what kind of dating do you want to do right now. And brother, whatever that kind is, you can do it. You get to decide that for yourself, but you also get to decide like, what am I interested in? What types of people am I interested? What kind of relationship am I interested in? If you figure that stuff out, then it can save you a lot of missteps along the way.
The reason that I know that the bar is so low is that my sister-in-law, who for a time was on one of these dating apps that was specifically for divorced people,
What?
showed my wife some of the dudes who were on there. And one dude had like a photoshopped picture of himself as his profile photo that was like that kind of black and white that looks like tinny almost, kind of like real
like sepia.
Yeah, but like black and white, but almost like metallic looking
Yeah.
in a way. And he had photoshopped his own eyes pure white with like smoke coming out
Like the
from
Undertaker. He's basically
from the
like
corners of his eyes. And that was one of the dudes on there trying to get a date.
He had that picture and he was like, hell yeah, this is
That's
the
the
one.
one, is what he thought. All right, here's a question that I have for you about the dating apps, which I hope I never have to find out about. So in a town the size of Missoula, Montana, you're going to see a lot of people on the apps that you like know
Yep.
in life, right? And my understanding of, say, like the Tinder is if you like swipe right on someone, meaning that you are interested in them, they know about it. Like it
No,
alerts
not
them.
just
No,
no.
they don't? Okay. Because I was wondering, like, do you swipe right on an acquaintance knowing that then they might be like, this fucking asshole swiped right on me? I'm going to sit around and laugh about it with all my friends?
No, they don't know about it unless they also swipe right.
Okay.
Then it'll
All
tell
right.
you that you're a match. The other ones, there's some other ones that work differently, like Hinge or something, where it's like you got to send a like, and so you see the likes from everybody, regardless of whether you're interested or not. Which I'll tell you what, that could humble you at times because you'd be like, this person, they think there's a chance,
Wow.
brother.
Yeah.
Wow, I
Okay.
need to maybe hit the gym more or something. Like, but like with Tinder, no, it doesn't work that way. But it does work. Like you do see people who you recognize from around town, or Uh, the other thing though is that you'll see people on there and you'll be like, I know you, and I know you don't look like this.
Hmm.
These are the 4 greatest pictures of you ever taken, and probably a while ago. And you are not doing yourself any favors that way because, like, I would swipe right on this if I thought that's what you looked like, but I know you don't.
Okay.
And there's a lot of that. There's also a
There's
lot
got to
of
be a lot of that.
once you've been on and off of them and on them again, you're like, same fucking assholes on here. Like, these people have figured out shit. And there's also some people where I've seen on them where it's like, I've never matched with this person, never swiped on them or anything, but you'll see them, you'll be like, bro, you've been using this picture for 5 years. Like, there's no way. There's just no way.
Yeah.
Like,
But there's also people on there that are seeing you on there that was like, well, he was on here before and then he was gone and now he's back.
yeah,
So
well, that's the game, brother. That's all in the game.
yeah.
But hey, the other thing about it is like at times I think it makes people like kind of brusquely dismiss each other too easily. Because it's like if you met somebody in real life, you're talking to them, maybe they say one or two things, and you're like, I don't know, I don't love that. But like, you're more likely to kind of stick around and give it a chance. But when you're like, I don't know, there's more people, fuck this one, like throw this one back. And I've noticed myself doing that at times, like when I've been on it before too. But yeah, the thing about the app with like just for divorced people, like I kind of understand the appeal, but I also one of the things that I sort of learned was I do not want to be the divorced dad with kids in a relationship with a divorced mom with kids because that's just my kids aren't going to want to ever get to know anybody else's kids. Scheduling is difficult for two parents. So there's a lot of obstacles to that. And so I was just like, the ideal partner for me is somebody who has already sort of passed that age and for one reason or another has been like, I don't want kids of my own or can't have kids of my own or something. And, maybe have never been married, but if I had, then got divorced without ever having kids, like that works best for me. But you got to figure that out for yourself.
All right, that's going to do it. I got to go. I don't
all
have
right,
time
fine.
for this shit anymore. I got to get back to
Sorry,
work.
Ryan. Chad doesn't have time for your question about are there any tropes or stereotypes that you're happy to identify with as you have aged, even though it's exactly the kind of question Chad would have answers for.
Yeah, I can tell you one is that when I go to the gym and the dumbbells are all mixed up on the dumbbell rack, I immediately turn into a 46-year-old father of three. I'm immediately like, "What fuck? Who messed up the damn dumbbells over here?" Start rearranging.
At the CrossFit gym?
Yes, god damn.
Wow, I would think the CrossFit gym would be the kind of self-policing crowd on some shit like that.
Well, yeah, well, they got me. That's who the police is. They got me out here
Sheriff
getting
Chad.
mad. All right, I got to get out of here. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you tomorrow for doing the damn thing. We appreciate the support. As for now, we're done.